it's time for the best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Indeed it does, and thanks for being with us on this Monday edition of the show all across America and Canada and wherever you may be watching on the Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel, Spotify. You could be listening anywhere. We appreciate you being with us. We got a lot to do over the next 60 minutes. Our friend Bill Bender drops by for his first college football visit of the season. He was at ACC Media Days last week. I'll be curious to get his thoughts on that and what is going on with Deion Sanders. Coach Prime and his health is obviously still a big question mark as we get ready for the start of the college football season, just a few weeks away. Brian Twining will stop by, and to tell you how important Brian Twining is on the show today, normally Brian is in segment 5, that's his weekly spot. I moved him from a 7-minute segment in segment 5 today to an 8-minute segment, which may not sound like a big deal, but we usually front load our biggest stuff in the show in the first few segments. Brian Twining, who does NASCAR with us on Mondays from Bleacher Nation, to join us to talk about Bubba Wallace's historic win at Indy at the Brickyard 400 yesterday. I was watching it. It was amazing. And there's a lot to get into from that, and we will. There is baseball to talk about, the MVP race in the American League. Boy, I hope you took that Cal Raleigh pick when it was like plus a zillion, because you're probably liking it right now. We'll get into that as well, but we start things out in the NFL. Sam Yarnell, I know you'll have a lot to say on the Cal Raleigh, Aaron Judge stuff, so we'll wait and we'll hold our fire on that. But let's talk about some NFL stuff. You got Matthew Stafford dealing with a back injury right now. And I said this throughout the offseason, so I'm going to take a bit of a victory lap here of sorts. Because if you were Aaron Rodgers, I screamed this as loud as I could. Not that he's listening to anything I have to say. But I screamed this as loud as I could, Sam Yarnell, that Aaron Rodgers should wait to sign. Don't be in a rush. Don't run because, oh my God, there's only 1 or 2 teams right now with quarterback openings, and I gotta pick one, or else I'm gonna wind up on the sideline and nobody's gonna want me. No. He could have sat out, he could have waited, and the exact scenario that we're seeing with Matthew Stafford is going to play out probably amongst a half a dozen teams during training camp, where somebody's going to get hurt, a team's going to need a starter. It might actually be a team that isn't the third best team in their own division, let alone the conference, and the Steelers, and you'd have a chance to go and play somewhere and actually have a shot at winning a Super Bowl, as opposed to just kind of playing out the string with the Steelers and Mike Tomlin. I don't get it. I said it. And I hate to be right, but I was right. And this Matthew Stafford instance is exhibit A as to why Aaron Rodgers should have just waited a little longer.
Yeah, no, definitely, Jason. We'll get to the NFL in just a sec. First of all, super cute that you and I matched today.
Ugh.
We didn't even plan this, but it's absolutely awesome that the vibes are just so
Super
high on a
cute.
Monday that you and I telekinetically were like, it's blue collared shirt day. That's just what day it is here on Sports Wrap.
And I learned that Sam, and by the way, I learned that Sam knows what grape Ramu soda is today, which I didn't know Sam knew.
Jason, learning something new about me every single day.
Yep.
You're exactly right about the Bubba Wallace thing. Absolutely awesome. Over 100 races without winning one.
Amazing.
For that guy. You even saw it with the competition, giving him the wheel taps right after.
It was great.
The NFL thing. All right. Do I believe that Matthew Stafford is actually injured and is actually going to miss time this year? No, not a chance. I am almost sure that this was an agreement between Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay after he renegotiated his contract this whole offseason, that he was going to get a few days off from training camp without having to miss any paychecks or be fined any amount of money. So I'm totally cool with this Matthew Stafford situation. But the Aaron Rodgers thing, you hit the nail exactly on the head. If I'm Aaron Rodgers, which he clearly is, and I'll get to that in a minute, I am absolutely grinding my gears right now after watching how all of this is played out. Because quite frankly, Aaron Rodgers could have remained in the news cycle, which at the end of the day is all he wants and the only reason he is still playing football, for a whole extra month beyond when he somewhat left the news cycle. And the absolute second that the attention in the NFL media diverts from him and we start to look around training camp and other teams, and we're talking about Terry McLaurin and Micah Parsons and Matthew Stafford, what does Aaron Rodgers do? Lashes out at an all-time Steeler great in Terry Bradshaw. Terry Bradshaw made some comment about Aaron Rodgers.
Yes.
And then yesterday at training camp, Aaron Rodgers goes on and says, well, Terry Bradshaw doesn't know anything about me. News for you, Aaron Rodgers. We all know a lot about you. You've overexposed yourself. And that's really my takeaway from the situation, Jason. He's got to be so upset about how all this played out for his ego.
Yeah. And look, I think ultimately there's going to be more guys that go down during training camp. There's going to be guys that go down. We just saw Kenny Pickett go down. He's dealing with an injury in Cleveland as the Browns try to figure out what their quarterback situation is going to look like. And everybody's talking about Shedeur Sanders not getting enough snaps, not getting reps with the first team. And what do you expect? They got 7,430 quarterbacks on that roster. What did you think was going to happen when they got into training camp? But what do you honestly think? Do you think Shedeur Sanders is going to get cut? Do you think Shedeur Sanders is even going to make that team? Is he practice squad? What's Shedeur Sanders going to be?
I thought that Louis Riddick over the weekend, who I think is a very respected mind in NFL circles beyond his media platform, right? We know that he's always in conversation for GM jobs, and he's declined GM jobs in off seasons past. He had some really interesting insight over the off season, and that was, we need to remember that the front office would have to be embarrassed if Shedeur Sanders ended up with this job or taking meaningful snaps anywhere near the beginning of the season. He's not even the first quarterback they drafted in this draft. It's a horrible look for the front office and the amateur scouting department if Shedeur Sanders, your 5th round pick, is getting meaningful snaps, getting starts in a season where you have all these other quarterbacks. It makes all of your scouts look really bad.
Yeah. And like I said, I mean, Cleveland's just one of a few situations where obviously the quarterback situation is still unsettled. We will keep an eye on it as we continue to go through training camps. Matt Verderam's going to join us on the show this week. Nick Ferguson will be on the show this week. Diana Rossini on the show next week, as she's making her tour of training camps as well. All right, don't go anywhere. We got more to do. Baseball on the other side. The MVP race in the American League in complete chaos now with an Aaron Judge injury. We'll get to it next. All right, we move away from the NFL to Major League Baseball. And an interesting weekend to say the least. Especially if you're a Yankee fan. And if you're somebody who placed a long shot wager, I don't know, maybe a month ago, 6 weeks ago on Cal Raleigh to win the MVP, you're in a very good mood as you woke up on Monday morning, Sam Yarnell, because Cal Raleigh, I didn't look at the latest as of Monday morning. I looked at it yesterday. I'll pull it up here real fast on the fly. Cal Raleigh to win the MVP right now, ladies and gentlemen, minus 115. Aaron Judge to win the MVP, minus 110. So we've basically got a horse race. They're neck and neck going down the stretch of this Major League Baseball season as Cal Raleigh hit his 41st home run of the season yesterday or the day before. I don't know, against the Angels. Who continue to hang around, by the way, in that American League wild card race, Sam. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Mike Trout hit a bomb for his 1,000th RBI of his career. My God, did you see where he hit that baseball? It was crazy.
397th home run of his career, Jason. Does he get to 500?
Yes, I think he will. I think he does get to 500, especially if he DHs more. I think he's got a good shot to get to 500. But Cal Raleigh, the story, along with Aaron Judge, the injury to Judge, we were all losing our minds on Saturday thinking the worst, that it was going to be a UCL injury, that he was going to need Tommy John surgery, which still meant he could have potentially played the rest of the season, by the way, even if it had been a UCL injury. But it's a flexor strain. He's going to be out 10 days, then he's going to come back, be a DH. which leads to interesting problems for the Yankees because Giancarlo Stanton's actually hitting the ball really well. And now you've got 2 DHs. And the Yankees are going to have to figure out something there. But move away from that and let's talk about it from the MVP perspective. Sam, with Cal Raleigh at -115, Aaron Judge at -110 right now. The MVP has just been, the MVP race been just thrown up into chaos here.
No kidding, Jason. Yeah, and I know that for as long as we've been talking about this race and the crashing Aaron Judge number over the course of weeks at this point, and the rising Cal Raleigh number, and I continued to say on this show, I don't think Cal Raleigh is going to win this award, and now the odds are favoring him, and I still don't think Cal Raleigh is going to win this award, Jason Page. I still don't think it's going to be Cal Raleigh, but I'll get extra spicy for you. I don't think it's going to be Aaron Judge either. I do not think it is going to be Aaron Judge. I could bore you with the mechanics of why I don't think it's Aaron Judge and why this injury for his swing type, which is a very unique swing type in MLB, is especially detrimental, but I won't. I would buy all the Tariq Skubal stock I can. And I know I said this on the show, 2 weeks ago when it was 150 to 1. That number came crashing down. It's 50 to 1 now. I've never felt better, obviously, than when I made the bet about my preseason Jose Ramirez AL MVP ticket. I mean, that one, if the Cleveland Guardians can figure out a way to make it in the playoffs comfortably, I think Jose Ramirez, if he continues to be Old Faithful and put up the numbers that he has, the one-man wrecking crew, if he backs his way into the playoffs, has a real shot. This makes things, from a Yankees perspective, not from a betting perspective now, this makes things very interesting. Over the weekend, obviously, tons of developments in the trade market. The Yankees making a great move to pick up Ryan McMahon.
I don't mind the McMahon move. The Rosario move, I'm like, meh.
I think, listen, Rosario is going to give you more than Volpe has been for the last at least month and a half.
They're not going to play him over Volpe, though.
They won't, but if Aaron Boone knew his right from his left, he would. Ryan McMahon, though, massive upgrade at third base. It creates a problem because now you do need a defensive outfielder, something there aren't a ton of just willy-nilly out there on the market. Yeah. I mean, are we going to put in Trent Grisham seems like a variable that could fit into this somehow. Maybe teach somebody to play first base. I don't know. I'll tell you this, I have not been more worried at any point this season for the New York Yankees. And this is a guy who was telling you a week and a half ago to bet this team to miss the playoffs. This is a disaster for New York, especially the way this team is run.
Well, they seem fairly confident that he's going to be able to come back and at least play DH. And now they're talking about Giancarlo Stanton taking reps in the outfield, which is, has anybody watched Giancarlo Stanton even just try to run, which is like mild jogging? They call it jogging. If anybody hasn't seen it, it's hard to watch. But they are talking about, desperate times, desperate measures. And Giancarlo Stanton is the ultimate team guy. He won't, say no to anything if they ask him to play in the outfield. Can I also mention one other thing? In this MVP race, he's not going to win it. But Nick Kurtz is tied for the 5th best odds to win the American League MVP. After his 4 home run performance, he's tearing the cover off the ball. And now he is not just the favorite to win the Rookie of the Year, he is the landslide favorite to win the Rookie of the Year. And if anybody remembers when we did our halfway through the season thing, I said, everybody, keep an eye on Nick Kurtz. He should be getting more love. And now look at Nick Kurtz. He's going to win your American League Rookie of the Year, barring some sort of injury, Sam.
Whoa.
He's minus 1,400.
We saw literally a week and a half ago, the Jacob Wilson number was the exact same thing. This is the thing. These things, especially when you're talking about Rookie of the Year, it's a much more volatile market than an MVP, because MVP, you're talking about cemented guys. Rookie of the Year, as you see with Nick Kurtz, all it takes is one out-of-this-world game to make you the landslide favorite. So if Jacob Wilson has a 2-homer game, if Cam Smith has an 8 RBI game, I think that you'll see one of them come back into the fold. Roman
under
Anthony
60
and Carlos
games.
Narvaez are on teams that are struggling just a little bit too much, even though they've picked up a ton of the slack that team's gotten rid of.
Speaking of struggling,
more
real quick. Speaking of struggling, I think this could hurt Raleigh. They don't make the playoffs. Is he winning MVP? No matter what he does, I mean, short of hitting 62 or 63 home runs, he's not winning MVP if that team doesn't make the playoffs. And there's a chance they don't.
Right. I think you're exactly right. And I think the same could be true with Aaron Judge. Again, Scooble. Buy your Scooble stock. Buy your Jose Ramirez stock. Let's go dart hunting.
They got to come back a long way, though. Scooble at plus 5,000 and Ramirez at plus 8,000. All right, we're going to talk NASCAR. Huge story on Sunday. Bubba Wallace making history at Indy. We'll get to it next. Welcome back to the show. Good to be with you on this Monday. And we talked about it at the top of the program. I usually talk with Brian Twining, our NASCAR guy from Bleacher Nation, on Mondays. But usually we put it in, he has his set spot, segment 5 in the show, 7 minutes, locked in. Well, I told him we're going to need an extra minute this week, so I moved him up in the lineup to segment 3 on the show. And Brian Twining, I mean, listen, I am dying to know what the ratings were like for that finish yesterday, because I can't think of a better story for NASCAR, for the sport as a whole, than Bubba Wallace winning. And there may not be, at least amongst the drivers, we'll get into the fan reaction a little bit, but amongst the drivers and the guys that are week in, week out racing on this circuit, I can't think of a more popular win than Bubba Wallace winning it at Indy yesterday.
100%. I think it just showed at the end of that race, after he crossed the start-finish line and the entire field caught up to him, pretty much every single driver that was passing him was giving him a door bump, saluting him on their way by, giving him a thumbs up, or even Alex Bowman, the guy who he's had the most run-ins with in recent memory, going up beside him, giving him a bump to basically say congratulations. And, something that you and I talked about quickly yesterday after the win, people that don't get the chance to meet him, talk to him, like I'm fortunate enough to see this in the media center, Bubba Wallace is quite possibly the realest and nicest dude in the garage. I mean, all these fans out there, they don't know the person, so obviously they're coming from a place of ignorance in the sense of what they think of him, but the guy is very well liked.
And that leads me to the fan reaction. I was shocked. We did a SportsWrap short on it yesterday because I thought it was worth talking about it before we got on the show today. Mm-hmm. And some of the reaction that I have seen to it is very troubling to me. You know that there's sort of this underlying, this undertone of racism that exists within the sport. To deny that would be to deny reality. But to see it fester itself the way it did, just in reactions on my TikTok, both overtly and covertly, was kind of shocking me. The people saying, oh, he's only won 3 times in 9 years. They let him win. I've heard that one a bunch. They let him win. Yeah, because Kyle Larson, if you know anything about Kyle Larson, Kyle Larson isn't letting anybody win anything. NASCAR did it because of the lawsuit and all this stuff. Yeah. I'm like, what?
The only reality of that statement is it was the opposite. If anything, if any sort of shenanigans were happening, it was that they were trying everything possible to not let him win. That's the only thing I'm going to say on that before getting too long into a rant.
Well, we saw the 2 overtimes. We saw the rain. They had to stop the race because of the rain late. I don't have a problem with that. But then you get the 2 overtimes. It felt like everything was stacked against him, Brian.
Yeah, and he hit on this in his post-race presser. Like, in the past, this is a situation where he probably would not have succeeded because of the way he was in his own mentals and that everything was negative. But having his child, another year forward in his career, everything is now looking positive for him. And the fact that he was able to get it done when he was also dealing with little to no fuel, I thought there was no chance that he was going to make it back around. probably the most impressive win that we've seen this year, in my opinion, because of everything that was stacked against him.
Everything when they went to go do that second restart, I literally thought he was going to jam on the gas. He was just going to pump the gas, and nothing was going to happen. And you were going to see a huge pile up behind him. I just kept waiting for the point where his team was like, or where he gets on the radio and goes, "That's how I'm out of gas." I was literally just waiting for that moment. All right, so let's ask the question: does this the natural progression in this is, all right, does this unlock him? Does it unleash him? Does it take the pressure off now to an extent where he could actually be competitive and maybe even win in the playoffs?
Yeah, look, we talked about this last week. I wasn't really worried about him getting into the playoffs just because they've been performing really good so far this year. And now that he does have a win locked in, they can kind of focus on setting up for the playoffs, which I think he's going to be just fine there too, because now they can hunt stage points, hunt playoff points. He doesn't have to so worry about finishing results. And yes, I do think to an extent it does unlock this team to potentially make a run.
And that's the other thing about yesterday. You want to talk about on a razor's edge. He could have won the race, which he did. Mm-hmm. He could have gone DNF. Which, when you're talking about the playoffs, that would have been a disaster. If he ran out of gas and couldn't finish, Brian, you're talking about the complete antithesis of winning. It would have really affected him from a playoff standpoint.
Yeah, I'm going to say, so as somebody who gets to cover the races in a working capacity, we're supposed to be impartial, but I'm just going to go out and say, if I'm glad I wasn't in the media center, because my fandom would have definitely showed yesterday watching him win. And yes, to your point, we saw William Byron run out of fuel coming down the backstretch. He wound up finishing, I think it was 16th or 17th or something of that nature. So yeah, Bubba, had that happen to him, you're looking at from playoff lock to losing a ton of points.
And he held off a great racer, a great driver in Kyle Larson. Catherine Legg. I don't typically bring up people who finish in 17th place. But Catherine Legg finishing 17th. This is a 45-year-old rookie female driver in NASCAR. And what she's done over the last 3 or 4 weeks is nothing short of amazing. And I know people are going to say, why were they celebrating on her radio, her finishing in 17th? Explain to people why they were celebrating so much and so pumped up about her finish.
Well, let's just point out, we only had 25 minutes of practice. This was her first time in this car at an oval larger than a short track. The only other oval she's ran at in the Cup Series was Phoenix earlier this year. So this is basically like taking an Xfinity Series driver and just having them jump in here into the poorest equipment possible, Live Fast Motorsports, which is not a weekly entry. And she's out there competing and besting a lot of these guys that have been doing this for their entire life.
Shane Van Gisbergen.
Yeah, I mean, Shane, I guess you could say he's also learning the ovals, but I mean, both of them actually finished with top 20s. Like, that's no small feat at Indy, where passing is impossible too. So the fact that they are just able to survive, especially Catherine, there was a video, her radio said, if we get this girl more practice, she's going to kick ass. Wow. And I firmly believe that.
Real quick, in the last 10 seconds, Chris Buescher, the one we're keeping an eye on right now as far as the bubble is concerned?
Yes, but keep an eye on Ryan Preece this week in Iowa. He's notorious for being very good at short tracks.
Yeah. Short track in Iowa. Always appreciate you, Brian Twining. It was fun, as always.
Yep, thanks, Jason.
We're coming back. Welcome back. We take it to segment 4, halfway home on this Monday edition of Sports Wrap. The calendar's about to turn to August, which means we're just a few weeks away from college football. The games beginning, practices. No better time to bring in this guy. There he is. The great Bill Bender from the Sporting News hangs out with us on the show to talk some college football. I was so mad because they had Big Ten Media Days here in Las Vegas. They had ACC Media Days in Charlotte. And I said, Bill, you're going to be in Vegas, right, for Big Ten Media Days? And he goes, no, they're sending me to Charlotte. And I was like, oh. Sorry,
Still not a waste of time, though.
I'm sure.
It was good to see Bill Belichick in a different element. And the term I would use, it was completely different than what you would expect. He was cordial. He was friendly. He was dealing out one-liners and trying to convince us all that this is going to be great this year in Chapel Hill. I think it is going to be super intriguing. I can't put a win total on it, but I think he was the story, which is
that's what
crazy.
I expected. That's what I expected, was he was going to be the story. When we talked about it last week, I said, is there anything else other than him and ACC Media Days that you're really pumped up about? And obviously that was a reason to go to those to see what he had to say. What jumped out to you? What jumped off the page to you when it came to Belichick?
Like I said, just the demeanor was different than what we're accustomed to. Talking about how he's going to run this like a pro program, maybe not to the extent of the Patriots, and the players saying, everybody's saying, well, how is he going to relate to players? Are you kidding me? He's one of the best coaches of all time. He's been relating to players that were younger than him for a quarter of a century. And I think with Michael Lombardi and the touch that he has on the program, it was interesting, and obviously Jordan Hudson was nowhere to be found. That was like that's
interesting. I was going to ask you. So nowhere, not anywhere in the building. Nobody saw her anywhere.
I mean, we had a reporter kind of like on the lookout, you know what I mean? Just in case there was in a hallway or something, but they were also an arrive day of, leave day of team. Okay. So that makes more sense there, right? Because Chapel Hill is close to Charlotte. That now, if this event had been in Miami or Pittsburgh, not that they would put it in Pittsburgh, but you get what I'm saying. It might have been different. What are
we to make of how quiet it got? There was this thing reached a crescendo during the offseason with the Jordan Hudson stuff, and then it just died. It felt like somebody literally flipped a switch and said, all right, this ends now. Was it UNC athletics? Was it Bill Belichick? Somebody put the kibosh on this thing.
Yeah, I feel like the height was 48 hours after the CBS News interview, which was completely bizarre in the last 5 to 7 minutes. And then ever since, there was rumors that she was not allowed in the facility. I've since found out that's not true. She hasn't been banned from anything. But, I think it just gets back to football. And Bill Belichick, when it just comes to football, I'm so much more intrigued by that than who he's dating off the field. I'm sorry. I think I want to see what this TCU game looks like. I want to see if his way works on the college level. I was talking to a good friend last week in Charlotte, and he told me, does Belichick still have it? That was kind of what I'm wondering. By it, it's been 5 years since he's been on a competitive team. Those last couple years without Brady in New England were not pretty.
Bill, we're almost essentially 2 months removed from that famous buyout drop in the Belichick contract. Yeah. And that coincides with this whole quiet period that we were talking about. I'm curious your thoughts on the status of that contract, of his coaching, stronghold in Carolina. What does it mean that his buyout is this low? He's treating reporters so nicely. He's dapping up his players on the stage between interviews. What do you make of all of this?
Yeah, it's like I said, bizarre, and it's fun. It was fun to see Bill Belichick, who's so notorious for, I did a couple of those NFL press conferences. They were brutal. They would beat the Browns by 21 points, and he wouldn't say anything after. It was fun to see him engaging and being humorous. I used the story in my story last week. He walks out of the interview room and grabs a box of popcorn from the ESPN booth and just keeps walking. And he's like, "Can I take two?" And you see that we've wanted to see the human side of Bill Belichick for, I would argue, since he coached for the Giants. And now you're getting a little glimpse of that. And it's never too little too late. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Now, how long does it keep our fascination? That is going to be dictated on how they get through a September where they play TCU and UCF.
I know you said that you weren't comfortable with a win total on this team. I'm more curious in you setting a different hypothetical number for me. How many games is Bill Belichick the coach at UNC for? What would you set that over under at right now?
I think you got to put it around 24, because is he going to get to year 3? And it's kind of what we did with Deion, right? Like and obviously Deion, there's some news coming Monday, obviously, whether it's, with his doctor in this press conference with the medical team. So, I mean, can we get to year 3 with Bill Belichick at his age, at his interest level? I always use the Bill Walsh comparison. Bill Walsh coached 3 years at Stanford. The first year was very good. Go back and look at the teams they beat. Penn State, Notre Dame. They make the Blockbuster Bowl, which was a thing at the time. And the next 2 seasons, not so good. So how long does he hold our interest? I would put that around 24, and you can bet on it from there, Sam.
There's still one more blockbuster in the United States, by the way. It's in, I think, Bend, Oregon. There's one blockbuster left. That was still a thing. It is still a thing. Bill Bender's hanging out with us. I got a couple more questions I want to ask you real quick on the other side. And this Deion stuff is kind of crazy too. Bill Bender of the Sporting News hanging out with us on SportsWrap. All right, we wrap it up with odds and ends 10 minutes from now, talking college football with Bill Bender. So great to have him back with us to talk college football this season with the Sporting News. One quick sort of postscript on this ACC Media Days. We talked a ton about Belichick. How are the other coaches with the idea that he's sucking so much air out of the room? Part of me would think they actually like it because it takes some of the heat off of them and some of the spotlight off of them. And then there's a part of me that's like, is some of the ego in these guys saying, hey, what about us? We've actually accomplished things where this North Carolina has been, kind of garbage here over the last few years.
Well, the 2 coaches that would come to mind, one, Dave Doran, who did not have much of a crowd because he was the coach who followed Bill Belichick and the NC State players. And it was, you saw the exodus, as you guys know, happens in these media day environments. The coach that probably likes it, Dabo Swinney. I mean, he's got a top 5 national championship team, caliber team, going to LSU, they're playing LSU. And he was asked about Bill Belichick, and he even admitted, he's like, I'm sitting in an ACC coaches meeting and I'm looking over and I'm like, wow, that's Bill Belichick. So Dabo can play that off well, and I do think it takes a little heat off of him. Mike Norvell probably always also enjoys it because he was more of a sidebar with Florida State and whatever amount of pressure they're facing here in year after the 2-10 year.
I know Sam has a question before we get to it. I want to make clear to our audience, depending on when you're watching this show, you're probably going to know what the news is with Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, over at Colorado, because there is going to be a press conference today. We're doing the show. We actually put together the show before that press conference. Still, I'm just curious to get your thoughts on the way this whole thing has played out with him in this offseason. And again, without really knowing what's being said by his doctors and his medical team. I mean, I saw a video of him the other day. He didn't look good, Bill. I hate to say that, but just from a health perspective, you could just tell he didn't look like himself. He wasn't that effervescent, glowing sort of Deion. He didn't look well, and all we can glean from that is obviously he's been going through some sort of health issue. But does anybody have a grasp on how serious this is?
That's what we need to find out because, I tend to reserve judgment on health issues until you actually know.
Sure.
It was serious enough.
But am I wrong in terms of how he looks?
No. And you saw him come back to Big 12 Media Day. I thought the personality was the same and he was very good and on the podium. But, where can you do this? And that's not an easy job, what it requires. The late nights. Once that season starts, it's full go till November 30th. And
I mean, he revealed he made a will in May. I mean, that's one of the latest stories that came out on this morning. He revealed that he had made a will back in May. So, I mean, this is clearly very serious. I mean, what's the succession plan if he's not the head coach at Colorado?
Right, because we're so late in the game. And typically in that event, you'd go to the offensive coordinator, which you got NFL experience there, right, with Shermer. So I think that's where they would probably go if that were to be the case. It'd be cool if they made Warren Sapp the head coach.
I thought the same thing. Warren Sapp. Let's go from crazy to crazier. Why not?
I'm in for those press conferences, by the way, when somebody makes him mad after the Georgia Tech game. You know what I mean? So that would be fun. But again, it's kind of like the Belichick thing, very comparable. When they came in, you were wondering, okay, is this a 2-3 year thing? And the fact that the most games we're willing to go on Belichick is in the 20s is indicative pretty much what we did with Deion. We were wondering, is he going to coach there when his kids are done? Obviously, this isn't the same thing, but at the same time, it wouldn't surprise me.
Bill, at Big Ten Media Day, we didn't cover the SEC either. That's crazy. We did 2 whole college football segments, and we're going to get no SEC. Wow, Greg Sankey may come for this show. Anyway, Big Ten Media Day, Curt Cignetti was asked a question about the scheduling, and he went on this long, effervescent rant about the SEC scheduling and how they tried to model it after theirs. What did you make of Cignetti's comments, and what's kind of Indiana standing within the Big Ten, where Penn State comes in, I believe, having won the coaches poll with Ohio State right behind them?
Well, I mean, the messaging from Vegas was clearly that Tony Petitti had the coaches in line. They're talking about strength of schedule and the scheduling. Curt Cignetti's going to do it the way he wants to do it. What I'm more fascinated in is Tony Petitti in this really hammering in this message about the automatic qualifiers. And since it was Vegas, I think this might be an instance of overplaying your hand, because I know the Big Ten's on top right now. I get that. But I've wrote, in my 15 years at Sporting News, I've wrote plenty of New Year's Day massacre columns involving the Big Ten, because it's got to be more than Ohio State and Michigan. I think the best possible thing that could happen for the Big Ten Conference, and I can't believe I'm saying it as somebody that loves that Ohio State-Michigan game as much as I do, would be for somebody else from that conference to win a national title.
So can Penn State do it? In the last minute we have, they've got all this hype around them. It seems like I've seen this movie before. Can they do it this year, Bill? What's different about this team?
Well, I'll take it off on this. I don't know what a successful season for James Franklin is. Is it just beating Ohio State, which they haven't done since 2016? Is it winning the Big Ten, back to the semifinals, or do they have to win a national title for the first time since 86? It's a lot to ask. I like the program. They would be the one, though. If somebody else could win it, Penn State wins it, it would be so good for the Big Ten.
It can't just be beating Ohio State. It can't be.
With Jim Knowles, they haven't beat him since 16. I think if they beat Ohio State, it unlocks the rest.
Okay.
That's why that game's so important to me.
That's fair. Bill Bender, he does a terrific job on college football with the Sporting News. I always appreciate you, my friend. Look forward to talking to you throughout the season. Enjoy training camps and all of that, and we'll talk to you soon. All right, just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Monday. Tomorrow on the show, maybe Nick Ferguson. I know he's coming on this week. I'm not sure if it's going to be tomorrow or not. Former NFL safety. We'll have full reaction, obviously, to whatever news there is on the Deion Sanders front as well. Nick very familiar with that situation, being in Denver and visiting Boulder often. So we have all that and more on the show tomorrow. Sports Wrap with Jason Page, the podcast. If you have not subscribed yet, make sure to go and do so. It's available on all your favorite podcasting platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and more. Make sure to go and subscribe today. It's free. It's commercial free. It's wonderful. It's a great thing. Why are you shaking your head? All I can see out of the corner of my eye is Sam shaking his head. Why are you interrupting my segment with shaking your head? What is the matter?
Because your segment. What am I, chop liver? Just a fly on the wall? Because you give Nick this, I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for the trigger word. You give Nick this whole long, elaborate description, and you failed to mention the most important part, that he was a former Buffalo Bill.
Are the Bills still around? I forgot about that. I keep seeing pictures of their stadium, by the way. It looks amazing, by the way.
So, a question that I can't wait to ask Nick tomorrow on the show, but do make sure you subscribe each and everywhere you get your podcast and watch us on Spotify. That works on the TV too, by the way. You can download the Spotify app to your smart TV, and then you can just click on SportsWrap with Jason Page on Spotify. You can watch the show on Spotify on your smart TV. I do it. You should do it too, because it's really awkward watching myself on TV. Okay, what I can't wait to ask Nick Ferguson on the show tomorrow, he always has that red Buffalo Bills helmet behind him, a helmet that the Bills haven't worn in years. They just announced that they're bringing it back. I can't wait to see it, and I can't wait to get Nick's take on it.
We're going to have to get you a red Buffalo Bills helmet somehow. We got to figure out a way to make that happen. Spotify.
We got to get the helmet guy back on the show before the season starts.
We will get Nick Isayan on the show from Light Helmets for sure. Provided me with that nice New York Giants light helmet as well. Sports Wrap with Jason Page, the YouTube channel. If you have not subscribed yet, go and do so. Sports Wrap Shorts. We had one last week. We did something on Hulk Hogan. We did something on Bubba Wallace winning yesterday. Even when news is breaking and we're not on the air, you can check out our Sports Wrap Shorts over on the Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. And without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, time for some odds and ends. Sam Yarnell, I have no problem whatsoever with Nikola Jokic crying when his horse wins some steeplechase race or whatever the hell it was in Croatia. I have no problem with it at all. People are saying, oh, he showed more emotion winning with his horse winning a race than he did when he won an NBA championship. He doesn't own the Denver Nuggets. He owns this horse. It just means more. Hats off to you, Nikola Jokic.
I think you're exactly right, Jason. I'll go a step beyond what you said. I more than don't have a problem with it. I think it's incredibly reputable and notable that Nikola Jokic has this innate ability that I think a ton of athletes at all levels, not just professional athletes at all levels, try to achieve throughout their entire career, and that is being able to compartmentalize sports as just a job, or like literally
Scotty
is
Scheffler.
just a day job for him.
Like
That's
Scotty
all
Scheffler.
it is. It just pays the bills, and he loves horse racing and taking care of his horses. I think it is so cool to see that a professional athlete has that ability still, even to this day, to be so dominant and a top 3 player in the NBA perennially, and a probably almost definitely top 10 center of all time, right? I think he's already in that conversation. That may be a little too generous. And to still be able to not pay attention to basketball 365 days a year, it's awesome. It takes a ton of mental fortitude. Hats off to you, Nikola Jokic.
It's like Scotty Scheffler said, man. Success in sports, when you're playing it, it's there and then it's gone. And it doesn't last that long. That feeling doesn't last that long. Nikola Jokic had something very special going on with this horse, winning this race, and obviously it meant a lot to him. I have no problem with the tears and the expressing emotion about it. Last thing before we go. We talked last week on the show about Caitlin Clark and her logo woman card, which sold at auction for like over $600,000. Highest selling female sports card in the history of card collecting. Well, unbeknownst to a lot of people, there was a one-of-one Topps card that was put out in Topps Chrome this year. It is this card right here. It is Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, Logo Man, 1-of-1. Well, it didn't take long for it to be pulled. Only 2 weeks after Topps Chrome comes out, a man in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio, bought like 3 jumbo boxes, and they're not cheap. They're like $250 each. And he pulled the redemption card for the Shohei Ohtani, Aaron Judge, Logo Man 1-of-1. That is basically like winning the lottery. That's like scratching off a ticket and having the $1 million show up on your scratch-off ticket. Could you imagine pulling that kind of a card? Would you call out sick to work the next day as $1 million card? Enough to do that, Sam?
No, because that'd make the block too hot, honestly. I'd have to keep it under the table.
I'd have to. That would be... it's going to do it for us. Thanks to Brian Twining. Thanks to Bill Bender. Thanks to you, Sam Yarnell. Hopefully Nick Ferguson on the show tomorrow. And Sam will have some question for him about the Bills. We'll see you all then.